To the running commentary of Yusuf Ali. We are on number 12. Oh, maybe I should do the fingers all the time because it's going to get to 300, right? 13. Who were fit to be vehicles of this light, not men intoxicated with words and mysteries, men whom politics had debauched or tyranny had subdued, men whose refinement had ended in vices, who saw nature only through books or artificial conceits, or in moods which bred softness, indolence, or luxury, who spoke of love and justice, but practiced gross selfishness between class and class, sex and sex, condition and condition, and had perverted their language, once beautiful, into jargons of empty eloquence and unmeaning futility. 14. For the glory of Hellas and her freedom and wisdom had departed. Rome's great system of law, organization, and universal citizenship had sunk into the mire of ecclesiastical formalism and dogmatism and exclusive arrogance. The living fire of Persia's prophet scarce smoldered. In her votaries of luxury, in India, countless castes and kingdoms cancelled the unity of Buddha's teaching. The wounds of China had not yet been healed by Tiang culture, and Japan was still a disciple of China. 15. Then, in the sacred city of pagan Arabia, shone a light that spread in all directions. It was centrally placed for the bounds of the world, of men's habitations in Asia, Europe, and Africa, and made the Arabs the leading nation of culture and science, of organized enterprise, law, and arts, with a zeal for the conquest of nature and her mysteries. Now, we see in, volumes such as this here, and that one that I just drew on the floor, that terms like pagan and heathen really had absolutely nothing to do with religious affiliation. The Christian use of such as an insult, the Romans did not believe that pagan and heathen religions existed. 16. Behold, there was born into the world of sense the unlettered prophet, the comely child, noble of birth, but nobler still, and the grace and wisdom of human love and human understanding, dowered with the key which opened to him the enchanted palace of nature, marked out to receive and preach in burning words the spiritual truth and message of the Most High. Now, Ramadan, the burning, the Sufi metaphor of the being cooked, kind of attaches to that, doesn't it? 17. Others before him had been born in darkness beyond the reach of history. Others again it pleased Allah to send his messengers, preaching, working in the dim twilight of history, wherein men fashion legends after their own hearts and dimly seek a light afar, remote from the lives, mean and sordid, such as they knew. 18. Oh, before I go into 18, remember that Islam doesn't believe in just Semitic prophets or something. Every nation had enough of a message of a prophet. 18. But Muhammad came in the fullest blaze of history, with no learning he put to shame. The wisdom of the learned with pasture folk. He lived and worked, and won their love in hills and valleys, caves and deserts he wandered, but never lost his way to truth and righteousness. From his pure, spotless heart the angels washed off the dust that flew around him. Through the ways of crooked city folk he walked upright and straight, and won from them the ungrudging name of the man of faith, who never broke his word. For being called to being a prophet, he was called Al-Amin. 19. To the praiseworthy indeed be praise. Born in the sacred city, he destroyed its superstition, loyal to his people, to the core. He stood for all humanity, orphan-born and poor. He envied not the rich, and made his special care all those whom the world neglected are oppressed, orphans, women, slaves, and those in need of food or comforts, mental solace, spiritual strength, are virtues downtrodden in the haunts of men. 20. His mother and his foster mother loved and wondered at the child. His grandfather, Abdullah of all his twice 8 children and their offspring, loved him best, and all his sweet and gentle ways. His uncle, Abu Talib, loath though he was to give up the cult of his fathers, knew well the purity of Muhammad's mind and soul, and was his stoutest champion. When the other chiefs of Mecca sought to kill the man who challenged in his person their narrow, pagan, selfish lives. Again, pagan has to do with, these people weren't pagan. They were, well, a lot of them were city dwellers and stone and brick houses, so that's not quite pagan. It wasn't like they were, lush fields or something to go over. 21. To his cousin Ali, the well-beloved, born when he was 30, he appeared as the very pattern of a perfect man, as gentle as he was, wise and true and strong, the one in whose defense and aid he spent his utmost strength and skill, holding life cheap in support of a cause so high, and placing without reserve his chivalry, his prowess, his wit and learning, and his sword at the service of its mighty messenger of Allah. 22. Not till the age of 40 did he receive the commission to stand forth and proclaim the bounty of Allah and his gift to lowly man of knowledge by word and pen. But all through his years of preparation did he search the truth he sought in nature's forms and laws, her beauty and her stern unflinching ways. He sought it in the inner world of human lives, men's joys and sorrows, their kindly virtues and their sins, of pride, injustice, cruel wrong, and greed of gain were scarce checked by the inner voice that spoke of duty, moral law, and higher still, the will supreme of Allah, to which the will of man must tune itself to find its highest bliss. 23. As he grew steadfast in virtue and purity, untaught by men, he learned from them and learned to teach them. Even as a boy of 9, when he went in a trade caravan with Abu Talib to Syria. His tender soul marked inwardly how Allah did speak in the wide expanse of deserts, in the stern grandeur of rocks, in the refreshing flow of streams, in the smiling bloom of gardens, in the art and skill with which men and birds and all life sought for light. From the life of lives, even as the very plant seeks through devious ways the light of the sun. 24. Nor less was he grieved at man's ingratitude, when he rebelled and held as naught the signs of Allah, and turned his gifts to baser uses, driving rarer souls to hermit life, clouding the heavenly mirror of pure affections with selfish passions, mad unseeming wrangles, and hard, unhallowed, loathsome tortures of themselves. And whether one's being completely debaucherous or whether one's being in a state of self-deprivation for no good reason, well, perhaps good reason, but not necessary, and accomplish, and the same things can be accomplished through much the same things. Islam, for example, doesn't allow extremism on either end. That was 24, nor less was he grieved. I said that. Themselves. 25. He worked and enjoyed an honest labor. He traded with integrity to himself and others. He joined the throngs of cities in their busy life, but saw its good and evil as types of an inner and more lasting life hereafter. My stomach growls in response. People gladly sought his help as umpire and peacemaker because they knew his soul was just and righteous. He loved the society of old and young, but oft withdrew to solitude for prayer and inward spiritual strength. He despised not wealth, but used it for others. He was happy in poverty and used it as his badge. And his pride when wealth was within his reach, but not within his grasp, as a man among men. Poverty is my pride is the saying being referred to, but it's not saying, Muhammad wasn't somebody that you could say was proud or promoted pride. 26. At 25, he was united in the holy bonds of wedlock with Khadijah the Great, the noble lady who befriended him when he had no worldly resources, trusted him when his worth was little known, encouraged and understood him in his spiritual struggles, believed in him when, with trembling steps, he took up the call and withstood obloquy. Persecution, insults, threats, and tortures, and was a long helpmeet till she was gathered to the saints in his 51st year, a perfect woman, a mother of those that believe. So what, that was like the 11th year of him being a prophet? But we see here, or the 12th year, but obloquy is, obscurity. People trying to overshadow you. The 27th. There is a cave in the side of Mount Hira, some 3 miles north of the city of Mecca, in a valley which turns left from the road to Arafat, to which Muhammad used to retire for peaceful contemplation, often alone, but sometimes with Khadijah. Days and nights he spent there with his Lord. Hard were the problems he resolved in his mind, harder and more cross-grained than the red granite of rock around him. Problems not his own, but his people's, yea, and of human destiny, of the mercy of Allah, and the age-long conflict of evil and righteousness, sin and abounding grace. Parn in the Bible, some prophecies about that seem to have been fulfilled, that no one else made the claim that the Hagarite Parn, Hera, was being visited. 28. Not till 40 years of earthly life had passed that the veil was lifted from the preserved tablet, and its contents began to be transferred to the tablet of his mind, to be proclaimed to the world, and read and studied, for all time, a fountain of mercy and wisdom, a warning to the heedless, a guide to the erring, an assurance to those in doubt, a solace to the suffering, a hope to those in despair, to complete the chain of revelation through the mouths of divinely inspired prophets. 29. The chosen one was in the cave of Hera. For 2 years and more he prayed there and adored his Creator, and wondered at the mystery of man with his corruptible flesh just growing out of a clot. And there's different meanings for that kind of resemble what you see under the microscope of the embryo. And the soul in him, reaching out to knowledge sublime, new and ever new, taught by the bounty of law and leading to that which man himself knoweth not. And now behold, a dazzling vision of beauty and light overpowered his senses, and he heard the word Iqra. 30. Iqra, which being interpreted may mean read or proclaim or recite. The unlettered prophet was puzzled. He could not read. The angel seemed to press him to his breast in a close embrace, and the cry rang clear, Iqra. And so it happened 3 times until the first overpowering sensation yielded to a collected grasp of the words which made clear his mission, its author, Allah, the Creator, its subject, man, Allah's wondrous handiwork, capable, by grace, of rising to heights sublime, and the instrument of that mission, the sanctified pen, and the sanctified book, the gift of Allah, which men might read or write or study or treasure in their souls. Writing out sacred scriptures is a nice practice to pick up if you can. Or painting verses or something, but 31. The veil was lifted from the chosen one's eyes, and his soul for a moment was filled with divine ecstasy. When this passed, and he returned to the world of time and circumstance and this world of sense, he felt like one whose eyes had seen a light of dazzling beauty and felt dazed. On his return to common sights, the darkness now seemed tenfold dark, the solitude seemed tenfold empty, the Mount of Hera henceforth known as the Mountain of Light, the mere shell of an intense memory. Was it a dream? Terror seized his limbs as he straightway sought her who shared his inmost life, and told her of his sense of exaltation and the awful void when the curtain closed. 32. She understood, rejoiced, and comforted him, gave strength to his shaken senses, wrapped up in warmth his shivering body. Unused as yet to bear the strain and stress of an experience rare to mortal men, she knew it was no dream or delusion. She went and consulted her cousin, Waraqah, a devout worshipper of Allah in the faith of Christ. learned in spiritual lore, he listened and with her rejoiced that he, Muhammad, was Allah's chosen one to renew the faith. 33. She said, Blessed be thou, chosen one. Do we not see thy inner life, true and pure? We do not all see thy outer life, kind and gentle, loyal to kin, hospitable to strangers. No thought of harm or mischief ever stained thy mind, nor word ever passed thy lips that was not true, or stilled not the passions of narrower men. Ever ready in the service of Allah, thou art he of whom I bear witness. There is no God but he, and thou art his chosen prophet. And, there's notes to some of this, who some of the individuals are, and that sort of thing. Maybe I'll go into more of it. But remember that the life of the Quran is not a biography of Muhammad. It's an effectual book. And it's supposed to be broader than that. What we see, the name of one enemy, and that enemy is in the meaning of the name. We have some important lessons that we can draw.